A blind king sits in a dim hall at Hastinapura. The lamps are burning. Around him the palace has gone quiet, in the way that places go quiet when catastrophe is near but has not yet arrived. He turns his sightless face toward the man beside him and asks a question. It is, on the surface, a simple question. What are they doing, the armies assembled at Kurukshetra? But the Sanskrit of that question, as it has come down to us across 25 centuries, carries something else inside it. Something the king does not hear in his own words, but which the man beside him hears with absolute clarity. The verse is Bhagavad Gītā 1:1. Dhritarashtra speaks, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava. Mamakas pandavas chaiva kima kurvata Sañjaya. The field of Dharma, Kurukshetra. What did my sons and the sons of Pandu do, assembled there, eager to fight? The question seems to ask for information. What commentators from Shankara to Chinmayananda have noticed, though, is the fracture in the syntax. Mamaka, mine, my people, my sons. And then, on the other side of the conjunction, Pandava, the Pandavas, named for their father and not for their blood relation to Dhritarashtra, who is their uncle. In a single breath, the king has divided the world into his and other. And this is the only verse Dhritarashtra speaks in the entire Gita. All 700 remaining verses belong to Sanjaya, to Kṛṣṇa, to Arjuna. The king asks once, and then falls silent. He already cannot bear what the answer will be. Sañjaya, whose name carries the meaning complete victory, Sam plus Jaya, a conquering that is whole, is the son of Gavalgana, a charioteer of the Kuru house, and belongs to the Sutta caste, whose traditional work was precisely this: to drive chariots and to bear witness in verse, to recite and transmit. He is a disciple of Krishna Dvaipayana Vyāsa himself. His lineage is recorded in the Adi Parva, chapter 68, verse 93. He is not a warrior. He has no sons on either side of the field, no kingdom, no lineage pride at stake in who survives the day. His structural position is that of the man who has nothing to lose in the outcome. And this, as we will see, is the very precondition of genuine witness. The mechanism of his seeing is described in Bhishma Parva, chapter 2. Vyāsa comes to Hastinapura as the war becomes inevitable, and offers Dhritarashtra the boon of Divya Drishti, divine vision, the faculty of direct perception at a distance, the eyes that can see the battlefield though the body remains in the palace. The king refuses. He fears watching his sons die. This refusal is itself the psychological diagnosis the text is making. Dhritarashtra chooses comfortable ignorance over painful clarity. He is not incapable of seeing, he is unwilling. His blindness is doubled, physical from birth and volitional by choice. The king then asks that Sañjaya receive the boon instead. Vyāsa grants it. Sañjaya will see all events of the 18-day war, by day and at night, in the open and in secret. No weapon will cut him. He will hear the words spoken under the noise of battle. He will perceive the Vishvarupa, the cosmic universal form that Krishna reveals to Arjuna. A vision so overwhelming that Arjuna himself requires a specially granted inner sight to endure it. Sañjaya receives this too. He sits in the palace at Hastinapura, while his awareness ranges across the open dusty plain 160 kilometers to the north, among the elephants and chariots and the 18 assembled armies. Two simultaneous spaces, one body, one consciousness, present in both. This is what the tradition calls sākṣī. The word comes from sākṣāt, meaning directly, before one's own eyes, and the suffix that marks a witnessing agent, cognate with akshi, the eye itself. Panini defines the term in the Ashtadhyayi, the direct eyewitness, the one whose testimony rests not on inference or report, but on immediate perception. In the Advaita Vedanta framework of Shankara's Vivekachudamani, sākṣī becomes a name for pure awareness, the unchanging consciousness that perceives all phenomena without being altered by them, the witness that is itself never witnessed, never made into an object. The Shvetashvatara Upanishad, in the 4th chapter, 6th verse, uses the word in its theological philosophical sense, pointing to the witnessing self that stands behind all experience. And at the close of the Gita, in Bhagavad Gītā 18.75, Sanjaya uses the word sākṣāt in his own acknowledgement of how he came to hear. Vyāsa prasadat trutavan etad guhyam aham param yogam yogeshvarat krishnat sākṣāt katayata swayam. By the grace of Vyāsa, I heard the supreme, most secret yoga directly from Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, speaking himself. The word sākṣāt, directly, immediately, is the same root as sākṣī. The text names the discipline in the very sentence where Sanjaya describes receiving it. This is not coincidence in a text this carefully constructed. What is the psychological architecture behind this capacity? Traditional exegetes consistently identify it as sattvic, arising from a predominance of sattva, the quality of clarity and luminosity among the three gunas, the three qualities of manifest nature. A sattvic mind, in Advaita epistemology, functions like an undistorted mirror. Consciousness reflects accurately through it. A rajasic mind, driven by passion, ambition, desire, colors what it sees. A tamasic mind, governed by inertia, attachment, willful non-seeing, produces the condition Dhritarashtra inhabits. His name encodes his psychology. Dhritarashtra, the one who grips the kingdom, who holds and clutches. He holds so tightly he cannot open his hands to receive what is real. Sanjaya's sattvic clarity rests on something the texts call vairagya, dispassion, literally the state of being away from raga, away from coloring and passion, and it rests on anasakti, non-attachment, the absence of clinging. These terms do not mean coldness. The text is careful here. When Sanjaya concludes his transmission of the entire Kṛṣṇa-Arjuna dialogue, he does not offer a dry summary. In Bhagavad Gītā 18.74, he says, Iti aham vasudevasya partasya cha mahatmana, sangvadam imam ashrausham advutam, romaharshanam. Thus have I heard this wonderful dialogue between Vasudeva and the great-souled Partha, which causes the hair to stand on end. The word romaharshanam is precise, the horripilation of awe, the body responding to the scale of what has been witnessed. He does not report from behind glass. He is moved. And then in 18.76 and 18.77, he goes further. Rajan, samsmritya samvadam imam adbhutam, Kṛṣṇa-Arjuna yo punyam, krishyami cha muhurmuhu. O king, recalling again and again that wonderful sacred dialogue between Keshava and Arjuna, I delight repeatedly, and recalling that most wondrous form of Hari, I feel great astonishment, O king, and rejoice again and again. The repetition in the Sanskrit, samsmitya, muhurmuhu, is the syntax of lingering, of a mind that keeps returning to what it witnessed, because the enormity of it does not exhaust itself in a single remembering. This is what separates the sākṣī from two inadequate alternatives. One alternative is the partisan, the one who has already decided what the story means, who filters perception through the outcome they are protecting. Dhritarashtra is this. Every question he puts to Sanjaya during the 18 days bends toward the hope that somehow his sons will prevail, that somehow the dharmic calculus will invert. The other inadequate alternative is the detached machine, the one who transmits without being touched, who mistakes numbness for clarity. Sanjaya is neither. He weeps, he marvels, his hair stands on end, and yet he does not suppress a single death, does not soften a single defeat, does not arrange the facts to comfort the man he serves. There is a tension worth sitting with here, a dharma sankata, a moral dilemma, a dharma constriction, a narrow pass. Sanjaya remains in service to a king he has watched fail, morally, for years. He does not defect. He does not resign. He stays in the room and tells the truth. This is not weakness or complicity. The Udyoga Parva shows us a Sanjaya who went before the war as Dhritarashtra's peace ambassador and spoke with complete frankness to both sides, repeatedly warning that the Kauravas were walking toward annihilation. He served, and he did not lie. The witness discipline is not the discipline of distance. It is the discipline of presence without distortion. Consider someone who has watched a marriage in their own family fracture slowly over several years. A parent's marriage, say, or a sibling's. They are close enough to see everything. The accumulating silences, the particular cruelties that happen in small domestic moments, no one outside the house ever witnesses. They are asked, again and again, by one side or the other, to confirm a version of the story, to agree that yes, the other person is impossible, or no, it's not as bad as it looks. The pull is enormous, toward the partisan, toward the comforting simplification. What the text is describing, in Sanjaya's posture across 18 days, is the rare alternative, to see it whole, to feel its weight, to refuse to reduce it to either party's preferred account. Not because they lack feeling, but because their feeling is not in service of a predetermined verdict. The instrument of Sanjaya's clarity is, the text insists, not self-generated. BG 1875 places it explicitly under the word prasada, grace, the luminous gift from a teacher, from a lineage. Vyāsa's prasada is what enables Sanjaya's seeing. The implication the tradition draws is important. The witness discipline is not a solo achievement of willpower. It arises within a relationship of transmission, within a lineage of truth commitment. To be capable of seeing clearly, one must have been formed by someone who saw clearly. The Divya Drishti was withdrawn after Duryodhana's death, not when the Gita ended, but when the war ended, as described in the Sauptika Parva, chapter 9. After Duryodhana falls, Sanjaya hears Ashwatthama's cry and goes to the battlefield himself, his heart broken, his extraordinary seeing now completed. Years later, in the Ashramavasika Parva, when Dhritarashtra and Gandhari go into forest retirement and a fire breaks out, the dying king instructs Sanjaya to escape. Sanjaya circumambulates the king, that ancient gesture of farewell, walking around the beloved as if to hold them inside the circle of one's own presence, one last time, and then departs to the Himalayas. He is not heard from again. The closing verse of the Gita, 18.78, belongs to Sanjaya, not to Krishna, not to Arjuna, to the witness. Yatra Yogeshvaraha Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha. Tatra Shrir Vijayo Putir Dhruva Nitir Bhatir Mama. Wherever is Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, and wherever is Partha the archer, there will be prosperity, victory, happiness, and firm righteousness. This is my conviction. Traditional commentators call this verse the Eka Shloki Gita, the Gita in a single verse, and it is offered not as doctrine, but as Matir Mama, my conviction, the independently arrived at conclusion of a mind that has seen everything and been changed by what it saw without being captured by it. Think of a person who has spent months sitting with a parent whose mind is going, watching the confusion come and go, bearing witness to small losses that no one else is around to see. The father who cannot find the word for bread, the mother who calls her child by a sibling's name. There is a way to be present to this that is really a form of absence, to manage the logistics efficiently and feel as little as possible, because feeling too much seems like it would be unbearable. And there is another way, to stay, to let it matter, to see what is actually happening, without constructing a version of it that is easier to carry. That second way is exhausting, and also, somehow, the only one that allows the relationship to remain real. Sanjaya stays in the room. He lets the king's sorrow land. He speaks the truth anyway. What to carry forward into your actual day? The text draws a line between two kinds of seeing, one that is organized around what we need to be true, and one that remains open to what is actually there. Sanjaya's discipline is not superhuman. The tradition names it as a quality of mind any person can move toward, through truthfulness, through reducing ego investment in the outcome, through willingness to be present without requiring the present moment to confirm what you already believe. The Gita's entire transmission rests on a single figure who had nothing personal to protect, and therefore could pass it through without distortion. To see clearly, one must first stop needing the story to come out a certain way.